Everyone, welcome to SF Garnish Music Production. My name is Justin, and I'm going to walk you through some steps with Ableton Live 10 Suite. These are mixing and mastering tricks, what to do and what not to do. This is learning from our mistakes. And this is also taking some examples from songs that we've worked on over the years. Actually, the most recent, this is a mix from Honey of the Heart just recently. And some of the learnings that we're talking about today are from our teachers, Oz Fritz, Isaac Kotek, Alex Scammon, myself, and Cello Joey Chang, all teachers at SF Garnish Music Production. This lesson has a tidbit from each one of those teachers. So I just wanted to pay respects to all the teachers at SF Garnish Music Production, and we're going to get into it. What we have today is this song, 5,000 Souls, coming out soon by Honey of the Heart, and I'm going to play you a piece of it. Now, it sounds good and mixed, but there's a main issue, and we're going to tell you what happened and how to fix it. Here we go. So that's actually just a pretty chill part of the song. I'm going to go to a more heavy part so you can hear that example. All right, so that's kind of a soft and loud part of the song, so you can kind of hear what's going on. And what I want to show you today is this is the different views of Ableton. Okay, looks like this is a little bit too big for the screen here, so let me shrink that down so you can see the whole thing. So we are using Ableton Live 10 Suite to mix and master. And the reason why I want to share these different views with you is because look over here, right in the bottom left-hand corner, you see that this red dot is on our master channel. That means that there's some automation on our master fader, okay? And there's also some automation on our other faders. You can see each one with a dot, okay? So just take note of that. Now notice how we're right here, we are at -8. You can also see this in the other view, right? This is arrangement view versus session view. And when you click over the line right here, it says -8. And it has that automation link here showing that it's being automated. That little red dot shows we have some fading going on. You can also zoom out and see that fading at the very end of the song. Now, this is something you can do toward the end. You can automate your master fader. However, something that we would prefer to do is put a gain, a utility gain on that channel instead. Okay, so I'll drop this utility gain on that channel and highlight this area, and I would just cut that out, and then I'm going to click on the gain here. Notice how I'm in this view, I press the A function to get to see all of my automations, all of these different red lines. Okay, and when I click on gain over here, my gain now is being shown. There's no automation. I'm going to click at the beginning of my track and then click paste, Command V, and I'm putting the same automation onto that gain channel, and I'm going to bring it to where it comes up to pretty much 0. It doesn't have to be exact. So just a little over 0. So this allows, so notice how, because I cut it out of our master fader, there's no red dot over here. However, now there's a red dot on our gain channel because there's automation on our utility gain instead of our master channel gain. So the same fade is happening, but with a different, just a different form of it. So notice how in this view right here, you can see that our master channel now, it's still at -8, but there's no red dot on it. It's free to move up and down. So what we're gonna wanna do is bring this up to nominal, right, which is 0. Okay, you can bring it up just by eye, or in arrangement view, you could literally just click on this and click 0, enter. Okay, and manually put that in to be exactly at 0. Now, what you're gonna hear is how distorted and how much feedback there is, or distortion over crunching, because these channels are too hot. Our master channel was at -8, crunching it down almost as if it was a limiter, and all of our individual channels were automated too high. Okay, so I'm going to play you just a portion of this. It's going to probably peak a little bit in the speakers. Let me go to a high part of the song right away. So over OBS, it doesn't look like it's peaking, which is great because I don't want to ruin anyone's speakers. But you are noticing that it is going in the red down here. When it was playing, you can see that red. That is a sign that you have potential of mixing or mastering this, and there's feedback, or there's distortion coming from the volume being too high of your individual channels. So similar to what we did with our master channel, right? Making sure that our master fader can move individually, right, without any automation, so that you can kind of freely use it. If I click on a channel such as this snare, this electric snare, and move it, notice how that red turns to gray on that channel. And the reason we have that happen is it's disengaging the automation and allowing you to move that. However, when you start playing that again, you can either re-enable the automation, delete the automation, or show the automation, etc. I want to show that automation. And here it is. So you're seeing that the automation is unengaged up here, and then it has where I actually had the track. So to really show that same area, let's go re-enable automation. So that's where we were. And it looks like there's a fade in the beginning. I still want this fade, but I don't want it on my main volume of that channel. I want this on its own separate channel. Okay, so I'm going to go in here, and I highlighted the section, Command V, and let's go ahead and put the utility in that same channel. It landed down here on the end. I'm just going to click on this. It shows that. Make sure that I'm on the beginning of this channel again, and Command V. It looks like I didn't get it the first time, so let's go ahead. Oops. Control Z that. Okay, selecting all. Command copy. Going to my gain, which is in my utility. Command V. Once again, I'm going to bring this down. Instead of being at 25 positive, I'm going to bring that back to just close to 0. The main part of this is that we're going from a low volume up, and that same fade is happening. Now, there's still automation happening on our main channel because I just copied it. I didn't delete it, so we can just backspace or delete that. So now, when you're on that channel, this is now free to move. Okay? So this is just one of the first steps here to taking down all of your channels to a level that you can actually mix. The main lesson here is that if you have channels that you're hearing and it's sounding good individually, but collectively it's adding volume, decibels to your master channel to the point where it's peaking at the end, and then we're bringing down that master channel to make it not peak. However, that's creating that limiter or compressor effect that we don't want before mixing and mastering. We want to have it breathe and be as open as possible, and each individual or collective channel together won't be peaking, and then you can start mixing it. So how you want to do this is a trick that Isaac Kotek actually shared during one of our free Ableton workshops. So I'm going to go Command-Shift-T, which is create a MIDI track. You notice how just a basic MIDI track opens over here. And then we have our instruments. We're going to go into our main instruments and just get a natural operator, pull that into our MIDI track, let me actually get this to where you guys can see what I'm doing. All right, so I just opened up this MIDI track here, and I brought in operator, dragged it in, and I'm going to change this sine wave to white noise. Double click this area right here, and when you double click that, it creates in session view a quick 4-beat loop. Okay, now we're going to work on this. We're just going to go ahead and double click here and extend this out for the entire 4 beats. And let's just solo this for a second at a low volume because it's just white noise. Now, what we're doing with this white noise is we are going to bring this to nominal level on our channel. And the goal is to make the white noise be loud in our speaker, right? So this is at nominal level, zeroed out, and our master is at nominal level, okay? And so we're gonna make this white noise at full volume. And just to kind of give you an example of why we're doing this, let's bring in an EQ. We are creating noise at all frequencies, okay? When you bring in this EQ and you look at the spectrum analyzer, notice how the entire floor is lifted up to our line here. If this is a talking voice, it might be around 600 to just over 1K, 1000 hertz is a talking voice. But the white noise is just taking over the low end all the way up to the high frequencies up to over 10K, over 20K. And the reason why we're doing this is that we are creating a noise floor, and we're trying to bring in individual instruments to that noise floor so we can just barely hear it. And this is giving you a mix of music that will allow you to eventually just hear enough of that instrument. You don't want to hear too much of the instrument, okay? So I'm going to go to this violin all channel and do an example of this. Okay, so let's go ahead and pick an area that we have our violin playing. Okay, that's pretty good there. I'm going Command L to loop this section, and I'm soloing the violin all, and I'm also soloing my new channel, which is operator. This is that white noise. That's all we want to hear, is just those two. All right, going back into the session view here. And in session view, as you can see, these are all violins. I can just go ahead and take this group and minimize it because this is the volume we're working with. I'll start at 0, and I'm going to bring it up to the point where we can just barely hear it. Here we go. Now, I'm not sure how that was for you guys over the Restream OBS that we're doing. On the Zoom class that we did, the settings in Zoom made it to where the white noise was way louder than the instruments, and we weren't really hearing it as much. But the goal is that when you're doing this at home yourself, you're obviously not streaming anything, is that you're just getting it to where you can barely hear the violin all channel, and you're able to mix it in. Instead of being at the full volume, right? Instead of being at the full volume, where it was at before, and then had the automation, we're now, let's go ahead and look at where that is. So violin all, we're at negative 18. Okay, you can see that right here where my mouse is. Negative 18. That's gonna give us a lot more headroom for a mixing or mastering engineer to play with, giving you dynamics and allowing them to throw on compressors themselves and limiters and push your track to the right levels. So I've already done this on all the channels, and I just want to give you an example of how that sounds. So I'm going to go in here and give you a look at it. So as this is loading, I just want to reiterate that we are doing this to allow an individual musician the ability to track themselves at home and give really good tracks, or maybe even a session in Logic, Pro Tools, or Ableton to a mixing or mastering engineer and have it be set up properly. Okay? Or if you bounce individual tracks, it's really important that you do these steps before you bounce the individual tracks to be mixed and mastered. That's what we learned from this right here. So here we are in a session that I just did all of this work on. Notice how down here, most of these channels are lower than nominal, right? These are pulled back. Some of them are still up here, like the tambourine. It wasn't really heard too much, the shaker, so I still had that pretty high. I'm now going to play you this track. This is unmixed, but it's at a level where our master channel is at the nominal 0, right? It's not being pulled down. All of our automations are on the side gains of individual channels. So still there, all of our work is still there. And nothing is going to be peaking so that I have to bring this master channel down to have it stop peaking, right? That's a technique that we do not want to do. We want to make sure this is at nominal level. And I'm going to play you just going into a high part of the song. Here we go. All right, that is the white noise. Take off that. I'm going to ixnay that, and here we go. All right, so this is a great test, is find that high peaking point of your song. And if you see red appearing over here, that means that your collective gain is still pushing your master to a level that you may not want to have. You want to have a little bit more headroom out there for the mixing or mastering engineer to work with. But as you can see from pulling down all the gains, I'm at nominal level and it's way better than it was before. Before, this was in the red pretty much the entire song, and I had to pull this down to -8 to have it play and not peak. And once again, that's what you do not want to do. You want to make sure that your master is at 0 and all of your individual channels are pulled down to a level that works. It looks like our violin channel was not done yet, but we did that in the demo today. So let's go ahead and bring that back to -18, which is what I recall telling you guys that we did. So -18, enter. Let's go ahead and listen to that one more time and see if that was the track that was making it peak. All right, I'm hearing a shaker being louder than everything else, and it looks like it might be that right there. So let's go ahead and do one more test. So this is something that you can really learn from here, is we're soloing both of these. Something I also set up, I might as well show you guys this too, which is Command comma to get into your preferences, and I made exclusive, I took off the solo so that I can easily solo multiple tracks. And it's just easier workflow instead of having to press the command button to do that. So I have my operator channel at full volume, which is our white noise, and our shaker just alone. Here we go. Bringing that from 0 up. We're not hearing our white noise. Let's engage that. All right, so I pulled that back a little bit, and anyone that just joined us here, we're doing this white noise on purpose to find our mix at a better level, okay? We're trying to go to a better level, being not too hot of a mix. So I'm gonna go ahead and play this again. My goal is that nothing is standing out too much, right? And then from this this general balanced mix, you can then start working on the mix individually. Making sure, this is what we're doing, is that making sure that we're at nominal level with our master and we're not having any red showing up. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and stop this and play that same section of the song again. All right, so something that really stood out to me was that this electric hi-hat was a lot louder than anything else. So let's go ahead and just jump into that. And it looks like our volume is positive 12 here. Yeah, it's all positive 12. And I'm seeing that in our channel right here. You can see that this is another gain structure. There's a lot of different gains you can increase the volume of a wave file. So we're looking at this wave file right here. All these are at positive 12. You can just click anywhere on the track to see that. So what I want to do is bring that back in the mix just a little bit. Looks like we don't have a utility on this channel yet. So maybe we haven't worked on this. Actually, you know what? There was no automation. So that's one more thing, is that you don't need a utility if you don't have any automation. Let's go ahead and do our white noise on that channel alone. Here we go. Pretty hard to hear. I'm not hearing that very much myself. Even over here with my two QSCs, I'm going to go to the high part and loop that. Just make sure that's right. All right. So let's see if that might help out. I went back in dB by about -4. I'm still hearing that quite a bit in the mix, so I'm going to go ahead and bring that back double to -8. -8. Another little trick is that most movements that I do are between -1 dB to -3. When you do a big movement of -4 or more, it's really when something's drastically needing a change. But most often when something's popping out, it's a very small change, especially once we do this generalized mix here. All right, so let's go ahead and make sure that this channel is not going to play. And it's looping around. Command Shift F allows you to follow the cursor. All right. So it's sounding like it's not peaking anymore. Sounds a little bit more, there's a little bit more space. Something else that you might want to do is give your mixing and mastering engineer some space to bump the levels and frequencies themselves in the mix. And one way you can do that is making sure that your peaking points aren't right at 0. Okay, and that looks like what we're doing right here. So I might want to bring these back in general even more. So let's go ahead and one more look. Yeah, so you can kind of see here in the bottom right of the screen, this is our master channel. I'm going to go ahead and try and zoom into that a little bit so you can see that just a little bit better when we play this. But you can kind of see how close to 0 are we getting, right? And there was now some headroom for a mixing or mastering engineer to do what they need to do, right? If you're too close to 0 already, there's just no way to bump it anymore. You just have to then limit and then bump, and it's just not giving that spatial dynamics that you want in the song. One more listen over here, and I'm actually going to do one more little option for you guys to learn here, which is selecting all your channels. Now that we have these pulled back generally, right? See, notice how these are pulled back a lot, right? Some of these are way lower, -18, -12, -8. So notice how all of your volumes can move together if you select all your channels together. Okay, what I did to do that is I selected on the upper part of the screen up here on the names of your channels. Above, I selected one to the right and then slid all the way over, pressed Shift, selected the one on the left, and it highlighted all of them so that I can bring them back in the mix. So as I'm playing this now, I'm going to be working on giving some room for mixing or mastering engineer. Selecting all of them. Notice how they're all moving together. Cool. So now that things are at a low volume, you now have the ability to really hear certain channels. So one of the channels that was standing out to me was that the shaker was still way louder. So I'm going to bring this back in the mix. Just a little bit more up. So it looks like everything's still highlighted. So I'm just going to click on one and bring that back in the mix. All right, so now this is a way that you can now listen to the entire mix, similar to the white noise, and just bring things up to where you can enjoy the volume of them, right? It's not standing out too much. I was also noticing the banjo guitar sounds were pretty high. So notice in my group here, right, that my guitars still have volumes, automation on the volume. So I'm going to do this one more time. So if anyone just joined us here, this is how, it's just a better way to mix your music. It gives you a little bit more abilities in post-production. So going into our guitar and our volumes, looks like our fade is in the beginning of the track. So I'm going to cut that out and now click on my gain and bring that to my gain channel. Paste. This is going to be up 24. That's way too high. Let's bring that back to nominal. 0. And our track right here now is off. It doesn't have that automation on our main channel again. So once again, I'm going to do the exact same thing to this channel. I actually need to bring a utility onto my second guitar and do the exact same trick, which is cutting out there and now bringing that into our gain structure. Paste, bringing that down to 0 or close to 0. And what I'll do is I will just go ahead and listen to this really quick. Now I'm just listening to the banjo and the guitar. I want to make sure that they're pretty equal. Now I'm going to listen to that with the entire mix. All right, so there you have it. What we just went through today is how you can, once you have really good hot tracks, right, they're actually recorded at a good level, is purposely bringing the volume down to give you some headroom to do some mixing and mastering and post-production work. Once again, your main master should be at 0, and all of your individual tracks should look like this, right? They're all a lot lower down here. And this will allow you some headroom to where you can have someone really push certain frequencies and not have it over crunch your track, which is what was happening with 5,000 Souls. I'm gonna finish up here by playing the track with you. Once again, this isn't entirely mixed yet. It's a pretty quick mix of doing the white noise trick that we just showed. And if you are just joining us, please, you can just go to the beginning of this and repeat it to see the entire lesson. If you want to learn more on Ableton Live production or Logic or Pro Tools, mixing and mastering, sound design, please go to sfgarnishmusicproduction.com. You can just click on the link below, like and follow us. Find us on YouTube, find us on Twitch and our different social media accounts. We'd love to connect with you in the near future. We're also giving away a 30-minute one-on-one with one of our teachers where you can share your track and just have a conversation and get some feedback on how your mixing and mastering and recording is doing at home. And we are Electronic Music Production School doing things like this. Hope you enjoy.
Flawed and fine and mortal and strong. this family of humanity. Oh, belonging to this family of humanity. These 5,000 souls before we came bear a weight within a family name. Oh, to heal and honor these 300 years for the future freedom and cleansing tears. Oh, for the future freedom and cleansing tears.
Nice. So what you were hearing there was while we were listening to that track, I was slowly bringing down different instruments that were standing out in the mix to me. This is a great example that instead of increasing the volume to hear certain things, start by doing the diminishing, taking away things so that other things can pop out and have room. Just one example of this track is that when we had it at -8 on our master channel and all of our individual channels were very hot in the mix, it actually made it to where it was very difficult to hear individual sounds because it was really too overcompressed in an unnatural way. Even though this is electronic music production, we're using this digital audio workstation, Ableton Live 10 Suite. There's ways that you can have the electronic music be organic and have volume and swells, and you can have a multiple track. This is pretty big. If I extend out all of our individual tracks here, right, even the violin, there's probably close to maybe, 70 channels here of music. But you're able to hear all of them so much better since we took down the individual files, individual waveforms, using our little Isaac Kotek way of doing our white noise and then bringing up the volumes just to the point of hearing it, right? Soloing just the white noise in individual tracks. And then you come to the point of having all your channels here at negative a lot, right? You're at negative probably, I would say like 20, -12, -18. Nothing's up here at nominal except your master, which is right here. Okay, so this is setting yourself up for success, whether you are bringing this to mixing or mastering engineer, or you're doing this yourself, these are the things that you want to do for yourself so that you have the best sounding music with the most dynamic changes, right? And you're hearing the most out of all of your channels. I hope you learned something today. My name's Justin of sfgarnishmusicproduction.com. Please check us out online. We have year-round music lessons, electronic music lessons, mixing and mastering, sound design, Ableton Logic, Pro Tools at our boutique studio, which is Soul Graffiti Studios in North Oakland, or you can sign up for online lessons worldwide. It's happening year-round. And go to our website. It is above my head right here. Just click on that. Google search SF Garnish Music Production for learning, creating, and connecting to your music and a community of artists that can help you grow and learn. So thanks so much for being with me. I'll see you again in the near future. Take care.